Recently, talk has been starting to heat up around certain players on the Toronto Maple Leafs who are unrestricted free agents who are going to need a deal. One of those guys being Bobby McMann, who's having a spectacular season right now. 15 goals, 10 assists, 40 penalty minutes, 104 hits, and 20 blocks. He's on pace for career highs across the board. So what is his number if the Leafs do decide to re-sign him? If you look at some comparables, you're probably looking at a Tyler Bertuzzi, 5.5 times 4, even though I think Bertuzzi is a better player, better offensive player than him. So maybe that number is a bit high. And if I'm the Toronto Maple Leafs and him and his team come at them with that type of number, I'm probably saying no thanks. Thank you for being here, but no thanks. Also look at a Connor Brown, right? $3 million times 5 years. And I think this is in and around the area I think the Toronto Maple Leafs will settle if they do decide to sign Bobby McMann. I think they'll look to knock down the AAV with some term. But I would say to the Toronto Maple Leafs and Brad Treliving, buyer beware when it comes to Bobby McMann. I love Bobby McMann. Very good player. 6'2", over 200 pounds, skates like the wind, throws his body around. I mean, I wish he was a bit more aggressive and had a bit more tenacity like one of the players we're going to talk about on this list, Scott Laughton. If he had some of that to go along with his offensive game, we're looking at a very, very good player. And if he also wasn't such a streaky player, he goes through long-term droughts of not scoring goals, and that is a big concern. He's playing well right now. He got a bump to the top line. He can play up and down the lineup. However, too streaky of a player. And I go back to last season where he ended the year with 3 goals in the final 28 games. He played 13 playoff games for the Toronto Maple Leafs, 13, and had 0 goals. I believe he finished with 4 points. So it's in a contract year. We know how players play in a contract year. They play their best hockey more often times than not. So if I'm Treliving, I'm the Toronto Maple Leafs organization, I'm looking at that, but I'm looking at the whole picture and saying, is this worth $3 million a year for the next 5 years? Or is this worth $4 million for the next 2 years or 3 years? However they're going to structure the deal if they do decide to do that. I think they have to be really cautious. Don't just throw money at this guy because you don't want to see him leave. As much as I like Bobby McMann, I like his speed, I like his size, I like his shot. Too streaky for me. And I also believe you can find those players out there. Similar to a Kiefer Sherwood. Not that they're going to go out and get Kiefer Sherwood, but those players are out there. You don't need to overpay. So if I'm looking to sign Bobby McMann right now, if the Leafs are thinking about that, I wouldn't do it. This is a wait and see. Get the right number. If you can't get the right number, see you later to Bobby McMann. All right, next guy, Scotty Laughton. To me, this is a no-brainer for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They gave up a first-round pick for this guy to get him at the trade deadline last year from Philadelphia. It took him a little bit to settle in because he was with Philly his entire career. It's hard to make that move mid-season. We all know this stuff. So you didn't really see the best of Scott Laughton when he was traded over to the Toronto Maple Leafs at that time. Did some big things in the playoffs. But now I think you're starting to see his true worth. He is the ultimate locker room guy. The players always talk about that. He's tenacious. He's exactly what Leafs fans want in a player who plays with all heart. He's tremendous on the penalty kill. One of the best face-off guys on the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are, I believe, the number 1 face-off team in the league. And I don't know how much that's worth. He's not a player who's going to get you, 20 goals and 30 assists. Maybe he hits 15 goals, something like that. But you're getting him to play on your special teams, glue guy in the locker room, and I just don't think you can let a guy walk away after giving up a first-round pick for him. Now, a lot is going to be determined by the number that he wants in the term. But this is another guy where I think you knock down the AAV by giving him some term. I don't think you pluck this guy from this lineup. But another determining factor will be is which direction the Toronto Maple Leafs are going. If they don't make the playoffs, if by the time they get to this trade deadline and they're, 7, 8, 9 points out of a playoff spot, maybe it's time to sell. And if that's the case, the Leafs are asset poor. They have no picks. They barely have any prospects. You got to try and recoup some. And by trading Scotty Laughton at the deadline, a Bobby McMann at the deadline, you can maybe recoup some of those things. And if that's the case, I can understand them trading him. But I know the Toronto Maple Leafs are not going to want to do that. They're going to do whatever they can to try and make the playoffs this year, which means Scott Laughton is staying. And if they do make the playoffs, he's going to be an important piece. So I do believe that will happen if they make the playoffs, and it looks like he'll be signed, just don't overpay for this guy like you've done in the past with certain players. Troy Stecher, picked up on waivers, has been fantastic. A tremendous waiver wire pickup for the Toronto Maple Leafs. In terms of waiver wire pickups, is an A+++++++. I mean, he came in, he's kind of solidified that back end. He was able to move the puck, which many of those defensemen weren't able to do, playing big-time minutes, 20-plus minutes a night. He's done everything you could possibly ask for. But that type of play from a guy like Troy Stecher, who's been on 7 different NHL teams, is not sustainable. And I'm not saying don't sign Troy Stecher, but again, figure out a number that works and a contract that works. There's going to be other guys over the next few seasons, even next season, they're going to pop up on the waiver wire and can come in and do a job. So I think if you want to keep Stecher and Stecher wants to stay here, then I think you need a 2-way contract and league minimum or just above $1 million. I don't think you go overboard with this. The Toronto Maple Leafs are clearly going to try and acquire another defenseman from now until the trade deadline, right? Where does that put Troy Stecher? And how valuable will he be then when he's not playing as many minutes? Is he a guy that you trust to just, have as your 6 or 7? I don't see why not. Right-handed shot guy. He's better than Philippe Myers. He's probably on par with a guy like Dakota Mermis. So good guy to have around. I just don't know if locking him up for 2 or 3 seasons at, $1.5 or $2 million a year is a wise decision, in my opinion. As great as he's been, it's just his play it's hard to imagine he's going to log 20-plus minutes a night. The Leafs don't want a Troy Stecher to log 20-plus minutes a night if they don't have to, right? I think you'd rather have your Tanev back. I think you'd rather go out and acquire somebody who can eat up some of those minutes. And that's where Troy Stecher is going to find a difficult time getting signed by the Toronto Maple Leafs. But there's no doubt there will be suitors for him based on the way that he's played. All right, you let me know in the comments below. Who would you re-sign? Who would you let go if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs? McMahon, Lawton, Troy Stecher. Let me know in the comments below.